Time is the one enemy the Wolverines couldn't defeat. Back in 1984, they were the face of American bravery, young and invincible. Now, looking back at the Red Dawn cast, we see a bittersweet map of life's triumphs and heartbreaks. From the rise of superstars to the somber loss of beloved icons, this retrospective is a powerful reminder of how fast the years fly. See how the heroes of 1984 look today. Patrick Swayze as Jed Eckert. Born on August 18, 1952 in Houston, Texas, the classically trained dancer and actor first brought Jed Eckert to life in the 1984 action film Red Dawn. At the age of 31, Swayze's portrayal of the fierce, protective older brother who leads a ragtag group of high school guerrilla fighters dubbed the Wolverines against a Soviet invasion became a cultural touchstone. The role resonated deeply with 1980s audiences, turning the character into an enduring symbol of American resilience and cementing the film as an iconic, defining piece of Cold War-era pop culture. Despite the character's hardened, stoic, and gun-toting survivalist nature, Patrick Swayze's real-life persona was a striking contrast. He was a deeply sensitive soul, a spiritual romantic, and a graceful ballet dancer. This stark contrast was an ongoing theme in his career. He frequently had to fight against the action hero and beefcake typecasting that followed his early rugged roles in order to secure softer, dramatic leads like his iconic turn in Ghost. Professionally and personally, Swayze faced significant hardships, battling periods of severe alcohol addiction and enduring devastating physical setbacks, including a horseback riding accident on a film set that nearly cost him his legs, largely driven by his stubborn insistence on performing his own demanding stunts. Patrick Swayze went on to become one of the most beloved leading men of his generation, starring in massive cinematic hits like Dirty Dancing and Point Break, while remaining devotedly married to his teenage sweetheart, Lisa Nemi, for 34 years. His final acting role came in the television series The Beast, which he pushed through filming while undergoing grueling chemotherapy. Swayze passed away at his home in Los Angeles on September 14, 2009, at the age of 57, following a highly publicized 20-month battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. His death prompted an outpouring of global mourning and brought vital awareness and funding to pancreatic cancer research, and his ashes were later scattered over his beloved New Mexico ranch. See Thomas Howell as Robert Morris. Born on December 7, 1966, in Los Angeles, California, the young actor brought Robert Morris to life in the 1984 Cold War action film Red Dawn. At the age of 17, Howell's portrayal of a high school student turned hardened guerrilla fighter became a significant touchstone of 1980s cinema. As a core member of the Wolverines, his character captured the defiant and patriotic spirit of the era, helping to cement the film's status as a cult classic and firmly establishing Howell as one of the decade's most prominent teen stars. Despite playing an intense, combat-ready teenager facing apocalyptic odds, Howell's real-life background was far less militant. He was actually rooted in the down-to-earth world of rodeo and ranching, growing up as a stunt performer and junior rodeo circuit champion. As his career progressed, he faced the difficult struggle of transitioning from a prominent teen heartthrob to a respected adult actor. He battled intense typecasting and encountered significant professional hurdles, particularly after starring in the highly controversial 1986 comedy Soul Man, which drew lasting criticism that shadowed his career. These challenges caused his mainstream cinematic momentum to cool down in the 1990s, leaving him struggling to find major studio work and forcing him to take on numerous straight-to-video B-movies just to keep working and support his family. Howell eventually reinvented himself as a highly respected, prolific television character actor and musician. He found renewed mainstream success through memorable, complex guest roles, most notably as the terrifying serial killer George Foyer, also known as The Reaper, on Criminal Minds, alongside recurring stints on shows like Southland, The Walking Dead, and SEAL Team. Off-screen, he has been married twice, is a father of 3, and has recently embraced his cowboy roots by pursuing a passion for Americana and country music recording albums and touring with his band. At 59, he continues to actively perform in both the acting and music worlds, enjoying a resilient career that has gracefully weathered the dramatic highs and lows of Hollywood. Lea Thompson as Erica Mason. Born on May 31, 1961 in Rochester, Minnesota, Thompson first stepped into the boots of a teenage guerrilla fighter in the 1984 action drama Red Dawn. At the age of 23, Thompson's portrayal of Erica Mason, a high schooler forced into a brutal partisan war against invading Soviet forces, struck a chord with Cold War-era audiences. Her character captured the tragic loss of youth and innocence, helping the film achieve massive cultural impact and cement its status as a defining patriotic cult classic of the 1980s. Despite playing a hardened, trauma-enduring resistance fighter, Thompson's real-life background was rooted in the disciplined, refined world of professional ballet, and she is known by peers for her naturally upbeat, approachable demeanor. This sharp contrast highlighted her acting range early on, but she soon faced significant professional hurdles. Following her subsequent meteoric rise in Back to the Future, she experienced a harsh career setback when she starred in the notorious 1986 critical and commercial flop Howard the Duck, a project that temporarily derailed her momentum. Furthermore, she struggled with industry typecasting, frequently being boxed into the girl next door, or quintessential 80s sweetheart roles, making it challenging for her to secure more varied dramatic leading parts as the decade came to a close. Overcoming those early career bumps, Thompson eventually found renewed television success as the lead in the 1990s hit sitcom Caroline in the City, and later in the Hallmark mystery film series Jane Doe. She has been happily married to film director Howard Deutsch since 1989, and they share two daughters, Madeline and Zoe Deutsch, both of whom have built successful acting careers of their own. At 65, she remains a dynamic and highly respected force in the entertainment industry. Having successfully transitioned into a prolific television director, she regularly helms episodes for major series like Star Trek Picard, Resident Alien, and The Goldbergs, proving her enduring resilience and multifaceted talent behind the camera as much as in front of it. Charlie Sheen as Matt Eckert. Born Carlos Erwin Estevez. On September 3, 1965, in New York City, New York, the actor made his major feature film debut, bringing Matt Eckert to life in the 1984 action drama Red Dawn. At the age of 18, Sheen's portrayal of a small-town high schooler forced to become a hardened guerrilla fighter to defend his country became a cultural touchstone. The film tapped deeply into Cold War anxieties, and his depiction of a vulnerable yet courageous youth resonated with audiences, helping launch both the movie into cult classic status and Sheen himself into decades of Hollywood stardom. Despite the character's disciplined, patriotic, and grounded nature, Charlie Sheen's real life became infamous for being the polar opposite of the loyal all-American Matt Eckert. While his early career was immensely successful, his personal journey was marred by highly publicized struggles with substance abuse, erratic public behavior, and chaotic relationships. Professionally, this culminated in an explosive meltdown and his heavily publicized firing from the hit sitcom 2.5 Men in 2011. During this turbulent period, Sheen faced the harsh reality of becoming a highly controversial figure, which made it difficult for him to find steady work as studios grew wary of his unpredictable off-screen antics. Charlie Sheen eventually stepped away from the chaotic limelight to focus on his health, publicly revealing his HIV-positive status in 2015 to help break the stigma surrounding the virus. Over the ensuing years, he dedicated himself to maintaining his sobriety, repairing fractured relationships with his family, and making professional amends, notably reuniting with 2.5 Men creator Chuck Lorre for a recurring role in the 2023 series Bookie. At 60, he is living a much quieter private life focused on his continued recovery and personal wellness. Having weathered the extreme highs and turbulent lows of global fame, Sheen has largely left his infamous past behind to embrace a more peaceful, grounded chapter. Darren Dalton is Daryl Bates. Born on February 9, 1965 in Howell, Wyoming, Darren Dalton made his mark in Hollywood after being discovered during a nationwide talent search before landing his memorable role in Red Dawn, 1984. At the age of 19, Dalton's portrayal of Daryl Bates became a pivotal part of the film's massive Cold War cultural impact. As the privileged son of the town's mayor who is captured, force-fed a tracking device, and forced to betray the insurgent teenage Wolverines, Daryl represented the tragic loss of innocence and the unforgiving realities of war. His eventual execution at the hands of his own friends remains one of the most haunting and significant moments of 1980s cinema. Despite playing a cowardly and spoiled politician's son who buckles under the pressure of enemy occupation, the real Darren Dalton was an authentic, rugged cowboy who spent his formative years working on his grandparents' cattle ranch and riding horses in the Wyoming wilderness. Following his early blockbuster successes, Dalton experienced the harsh realities of Hollywood. He faced professional struggles to break out of the typecasting that pegged him as a preppy or troubled teenager. This led to roles in short-lived television projects, such as the quickly canceled ensemble drama The Best Times, and a noticeable difficulty in finding consistent, high-profile on-screen work. Eventually, the professional sting of a stalling acting career prompted him to step away from acting entirely for a decade, between 1997 and 2007. Rather than let the fickle nature of the industry defeat him, Dalton reinvented himself behind the camera. He pivoted to a prolific career as a screenwriter and producer, penning scripts for independent features like The Day the Earth Stopped and The Land That Time Forgot, while also writing and directing his own projects. In his personal life, he was married to actress Kristen Dalton for 15 years before the couple divorced in 2009. He eventually reconnected with his Wyoming roots, working on documentary projects alongside his former 80s co-stars. As of 2026, at the age of 61, he is alive and continues to work in the independent film industry, having successfully navigated the turbulent transition from a teenage movie star to a seasoned storyteller and filmmaker. Jennifer Grey as Tony Mason, born on March 26, 1960 in New York City. New York, the talented actress first gained widespread cinematic attention when she joined the cast of the 1984 Cold War action film Red Dawn. At the age of 23, Gray's portrayal of Tony Mason, a high school teenager forced to become a fierce guerrilla fighter in the Wolverines' resistance, struck a major chord with audiences. The film, notable for being the first ever PG-13 release, became a cult classic that perfectly captured the geopolitical anxieties of the era. Tony's tragic yet courageous arc resonated deeply, offering a stark and emotional depiction of lost youth courage and resilience amidst the grim chaos of war. In stark contrast to the battle-hardened, solemn survivalist nature of Tony Mason, Jennifer Grey was raised in the vibrant heart of the entertainment industry, possessing a buoyant, theatrical, and deeply sensitive personality. After skyrocketing to global fame shortly following Red Dawn and Dirty Dancing, Grey struggled with the immense pressures of Hollywood stardom and the burden of being typecast in youth-oriented roles. However, her most profound professional hardship occurred in the early 1990s after she underwent a rhinoplasty procedure that resulted in a drastically noticeable alteration of her facial appearance. She famously remarked that she went into the operating room a celebrity and came out completely anonymous. Stripped of her highly recognizable features, Grey suddenly found it exceedingly difficult to secure prominent acting work, watching as her hard-earned career momentum abruptly stalled. Despite these agonizing setbacks, Jennifer Grey ultimately reclaimed her narrative and steadily rebuilt her professional life through sheer perseverance. She took on memorable guest appearances in beloved television shows like Friends, and later starred in the critically acclaimed Amazon comedy series Red Oaks. She also won the hearts of a new generation of fans by taking the Mirrorball Trophy on Season 11 of Dancing with the Stars in 2010. Off-screen, she released a candid best-selling memoir, Out of the Corner, in 2022, detailing her Hollywood journey. Gray was married to actor Clark Gregg for 2 decades before their divorce in 2021. Together, they share one daughter, Stella. At 66, she remains an enduring, respected figure in the entertainment industry, continuing to take on new acting projects and proudly embracing her legacy as an iconic star of 1980s cinema. Brad Savage as Danny. Born on December 9, 1965 in Livonia, Michigan, the young actor began his career early under the guidance of his talent agent mother before bringing his most famous character to life. At the age of 18, Savage's portrayal of Danny, the resilient teenage guerrilla fighter in the 1984 film Red Dawn, became a significant part of the film's lasting legacy. As one of the original Wolverines navigating a Soviet-occupied America, his character tapped into Cold War-era anxieties and teenage rebellion, contributing to a massive cultural impact that made the movie a definitive 80s action classic. His performance earned him a Young Artist Award nomination for Best Young Supporting Actor, cementing Danny as a memorable emblem of youth survival and grit. Despite the rugged, combat-hardened, and survivalist nature of his character, Brad Savage was, by his own admission, a passive individual who had lived a comfortable life and had never even considered handling a weapon before the shoot. This stark contrast made the grueling sub-zero filming conditions in the mountains an immense physical and psychological challenge, far removed from his sunny, upbeat experiences as a former Disney child star in family films like The Apple Dumpling Gang. Transitioning from a prolific child star to an adult actor also proved to be a professional struggle. Savage found it incredibly difficult to navigate the industry as he outgrew his early adolescent fame. Like many former child stars, he faced the hardship of typecasting and the challenge of sustaining career momentum, which eventually led to difficulty finding consistent acting work and prompted his quiet retreat from the mainstream spotlight. Brad Savage eventually shifted away from full-time acting to build a multifaceted career behind the scenes, finding success in post-production marketing and as a partner at the production company Bandwagon Media. He also embraced his passion for music by playing bass guitar and singing in the charity cover band, Banned from TV, sharing the stage with fellow television celebrities like Hugh Laurie and Greg Grunberg. In his personal life, he married Bronwyn R. Craig in 1988, and together they raised 2 children, including a son, Keaton, who also pursued an acting career. At 60, he continues to live a fulfilling life, away from the demanding Hollywood spotlight, utilizing his diverse talents off-camera while forever retaining his place in pop culture history. Doug Toby as Arturo Aardvark Mondragon. Born on July 13, 1964, in Los Angeles, California, Doug Toby grew up in the heart of the American film industry. At the age of 19, he took on the defining role of his career in the 1984 Cold War action film Red Dawn. Toby's portrayal of the resilient and hardened high schooler turned partisan fighter became an essential piece of 80s cinema. Shouting the iconic battle cry, "Wolverines!" after successfully ambushing a Soviet convoy, his character embodied the fierce courage and tragic vulnerability of ordinary American teenagers thrust into a brutal guerrilla war, leaving a lasting cultural impact on generations of action movie fans. Despite portraying a grizzled, war-torn guerrilla fighter who carried out lethal ambushes and faced the grim realities of an invasion, Doug Toby was described as a grounded, regular Los Angeles teenager whose real personality was far removed from the militaristic intensity of his on-screen persona. This striking contrast made his convincing performance all the more impressive, but his acting career eventually presented a professional challenge. Following the immense success of Red Dawn, Toby struggled to capitalize on the film's momentum. Like many young actors of the era, he faced the hardship of typecasting and found it difficult to secure leading parts, mostly landing supporting roles in lesser-known genre films like Walking the Edge and Summer Camp Nightmare, as well as occasional television guest spots before ultimately deciding to step away from the entertainment industry altogether. After leaving Hollywood behind, Toby pivoted to a completely different profession, finding immense long-term success in real estate. At 61, he is alive and well, enjoying a quiet, fulfilling life far away from the movie sets of his youth. Toby relocated to the Central Coast of California, where he has thrived as a professional realtor and broker in the Monterey and Carmel areas since 1998. Having built a strong reputation by leading a rapidly growing real estate office and helping clients buy and sell homes, he has maintained a low public profile regarding his family and personal life. Outside of his thriving business, the former actor remains an avid outdoorsman who continues to enjoy hiking, camping, and traveling. Ben Johnson as Mr. Mason. Born on June 13, 1918 in Foraker, Oklahoma, on the Osage Indian Reservation, the real-life rancher and world champion rodeo cowboy brought undeniable authenticity to his on-screen roles. At the age of 65, when he first took the role of Mr. Mason in Red Dawn, Johnson's portrayal of the rugged, supportive farmer became a memorable symbol of traditional American resilience. By providing the teenage Wolverines with horses, supplies, and a sanctuary, his character served as a grounding, grandfatherly figure in a chaotic fictional war. Mr. Mason resonated deeply with audiences as the embodiment of the old frontier spirit, standing firm against a Soviet invasion, contributing significantly to the film's cult classic status and its potent themes of survival and freedom. While Mr. Mason was a battle-weary and hardened citizen caught in a brutal conflict, Ben Johnson's real-life personality was remarkably modest, calm, and deeply rooted in genuine cowboy values. This contrast highlighted his steadfast nature. He was far more interested in horse ranching than the glitz and phony methods of Hollywood. Professionally, Johnson experienced significant hardships and found the changing culture of the film industry to be a constant struggle. He famously despised gratuitous violence and profanity, often refusing to say four-letter words on screen, which created friction with modern, edgier productions. He was also heavily typecast as the quintessential Western sidekick or rugged old-timer, a limitation that made it difficult for him to find diverse acting work outside of the genre. Furthermore, his uncompromising morals and refusal to tolerate abusive Hollywood egos, once telling legendary director John Ford to go to hell, resulted in a decade-long professional exile from Ford's films, proving that his undeniable authenticity often hindered his career progression in a superficial industry. Throughout his later years, Johnson remained true to his roots, operating a successful horse breeding ranch and dedicating a tremendous amount of time to organizing celebrity rodeos that raised millions of dollars for children's charities. He continued acting in films that suited his sensibilities, making appearances in projects like Cherry 2000 and Radio Flyer, while remaining happily married to his wife Carol Elaine Jones until her death in 1994. Johnson passed away on April 8, 1996, at the age of 77, after suffering a fatal heart attack while visiting his 96-year-old mother at a retirement community in Mesa, Arizona. Following his sudden death, his body was transported back to his home state and laid to rest at the Pawhuska City Cemetery. His legacy as one of the silver screen's most authentic stars was immortalized in 2019 when his hometown opened the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, celebrating the only person to ever win both a World Rodeo Championship and an Academy Award. Harry Dean Stanton as Tom Eckert. Born on July 14, 1926 in West Irvine, Kentucky, the talented musician and actor brought Tom Eckert to life in the 1984 Cold War action film Red Dawn. At the age of 57, Stanton's portrayal of the captured American father became a cinematic touchstone. Screaming through the chain-link fence of a Soviet re-education camp, his desperate and iconic plea, "Avenge me, boys, avenge me," galvanized his sons into becoming the guerrilla resistance group known as the Wolverines. His brief but powerful performance provided the emotional core for a movie that remains a defining cultural artifact of 1980s American cinema. Despite playing a fiercely traditional combat-ready patriot in the film, Harry Dean Stanton was intensely different in real life. He was known as an introspective Zen-following bohemian and a quiet anti-authoritarian musician who counted Jack Nicholson among his closest friends and lived as a self-described loner. This contrast reflected the unique hurdles of his career. Stanton disliked conventional acting, preferring to simply be himself on screen. Professionally, he endured a decades-long struggle with typecasting. For nearly 30 years, he was pigeonholed into playing minor crooks, weary drifters, and eccentric oddballs, finding it incredibly difficult to secure leading or substantial work in an industry that didn't know what to do with his craggy features until his rare, simultaneous 1984 starring breakouts in Paris, Texas, and Repo Man. Harry Dean Stanton continued to work prolifically in film and television for decades, delivering acclaimed late-career performances as Roman Grant in HBO's Big Love, Carl Rodd in the revival of Twin Peaks, and his final starring turn in the 2017 film Lucky. True to his bohemian nature, he never married, though he enjoyed a vibrant personal life, singing and playing guitar across Los Angeles with his music group, the Harry Dean Stanton Band. Stanton passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California, on September 15, 2017, at the age of 91, from heart failure resulting from natural causes. His death was deeply mourned across the entertainment industry as the loss of one of Hollywood's most authentic and beloved character actors, and a marker containing his cremated remains was established at a cemetery in Nicholasville, Kentucky, to honor his enduring legacy. Ron O'Neal as Colonel Ernesto Bella. Born on September 1, 1937 in Utica, New York, Ron O'Neal brought a surprising depth to the role of Colonel Ernesto Bella in the 1984 Cold War action drama Red Dawn. At the age of 46, O'Neal's portrayal of the weary Cuban Revolutionary Army commander became the moral center of the film. While the movie was known as an explosive patriotic fantasy, Bella's journey from a victorious invader to a soulful, disillusioned veteran offered a profound look at the corrupting effects of war. His pivotal choice to spare the surviving Eckert brothers at the film's climax cemented the character's legacy, humanizing the occupying forces in a way that resonated deeply with audiences and elevated the film's narrative beyond a simple shoot-'em-up. Despite playing a battle-hardened military invader, Ron O'Neal was in reality a deeply intellectual, quiet, and classically trained stage actor who began his career teaching theater and performing in Shakespearean plays and off-Broadway productions. This thoughtful artistic personality stood in stark contrast to the violent, action-oriented figures he became famous for portraying. O'Neal's career was tragically defined by the intense struggle of typecasting following his iconic breakout role as the stylish cocaine dealer Youngblood Priest in the 1972 blaxploitation hit Superfly. Despite winning an Obie Award for his stage work, Hollywood refused to see him as anything else, severely limiting his opportunities for decades. Furthermore, he faced the unique professional hardship of colorism within the industry. He frequently lost out on leading black roles because casting directors felt his lighter skin and naturally straight hair made him not black enough, enforcing him into a narrow corridor of supporting action or villainous roles. Ron O'Neal continued to work sporadically in film and television throughout the 1980s and 1990s, securing recurring television roles on The Equalizer and A Different World, and appearing in the 1996 action film Original Gangstas, alongside other blaxploitation alumni. In his later years, he embraced his legacy, but continued to express frustration over the unrealized potential of his classical acting background. In 2000, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which drastically slowed down his ability to work. O'Neal passed away in Los Angeles, California on January 14, 2004, at the age of 66, from complications related to the disease. His death came just one day after the DVD release of Superfly, which featured his final interviews reflecting on the complex racial and socio-economic realities of his most famous role, marking a poignant end for an actor whose immense talent was often overshadowed by the constraints of the industry. William Smith as Colonel Strelnikov. Born on March 24, 1933 in Columbia, Missouri, The imposing actor brought the chilling Soviet antagonist to life in the 1984 Cold War classic Red Dawn. At the age of 51, Smith's portrayal of the ruthless and calculating Spetsnaz commander became a cinematic touchstone, offering a terrifying and formidable face to the film's invading forces. Tasked with hunting down the teenage Wolverine resistance, his stoic, relentless performance perfectly embodied the era's anxieties and helped elevate the movie into an unforgettable 1980s pop culture staple. Despite the character's brutal warmongering and heartless nature, William Smith was a deeply intellectual and cultured individual representing the polar opposite of the thugs he frequently portrayed. While Strelnikov was a cold Soviet weapon, Smith was a real-life Korean War veteran who held a master's degree in Russian studies from UCLA, was fluent in 5 languages, and even published his own poetry. This stark contrast became a defining hurdle in his professional journey. His towering 6 feet 2 inches height championed bodybuilding physique and rugged features led to severe typecasting. Throughout his career, he struggled to break free from the heavy mold, finding himself continuously relegated to playing bikers, brawlers, and villains rather than roles that showcased his true depth. This pigeonholing also took a physical toll, as his tough guy reputation frequently required him to perform grueling, sometimes genuinely dangerous fight scenes that resulted in real injuries, such as broken ribs from an unstaged brawl while filming. William Smith continued to work prolifically in film and television for decades, amassing nearly 300 credits and cementing his status as a legendary character actor before quietly retiring to spend time with his family. Smith passed away at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California, on July 5, 2021, at the age of 88. While his wife Joanne initially declined to publicly disclose the official cause of death to protect his privacy, it was reported that he died of natural causes following a long, quiet battle with Alzheimer's disease. His passing was widely mourned by fans and Hollywood peers who paid tribute to both his legendary cinematic legacy as an ultimate on-screen tough guy and the gentle, brilliant man he was behind the scenes. Vladek Sheybal as General Brachenko. Born on March 12, 1923, in Zgierz, Poland, the versatile actor brought General Brachenko to life in the 1984 Cold War action film Red Dawn. At the age of 61, Sheybal's portrayal of the cold and calculating Soviet commander became a cinematic touchstone, offering a chilling depiction of the era's overarching communist threat that was both menacing and culturally significant. As the conventional military mind behind the joint Soviet-Latin American invasion force, his intense screen presence defined a character that perfectly encapsulated the paranoia and geopolitical tensions of the 1980s. Despite the character's oppressive and authoritarian nature, Vladek Sheybal was a deeply artistic intellectual, a passionate stage director, and described by those who knew him as the polar opposite of the ruthless military figures he portrayed. This contrast was a profound part of his personal journey. Having been imprisoned in and escaping from a Nazi concentration camp during World War II, he intimately understood the horrors of real-world oppression. His career in Western cinema was intensely marked by the struggle of being typecast, which made it difficult for him to secure diverse roles. Boxed in by his sharp facial features, penetrating eyes, and distinct accent, he was continually relegated to playing sinister spies, villains, and Eastern Bloc heavyweights, a frustrating professional limitation for a man with such immense classically trained theatrical talent. Vladek Sheybal continued to work in television and film throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, taking on parts in projects like The Jigsaw Man, Strike It Rich, and the miniseries Smiley's People, while remaining a fiercely proud advocate for Polish culture and the arts. He never married and was known to be a private individual who formed no long-term romantic relationships during his later years in England, preferring to dedicate his time to directing, painting, and teaching. Sheybal passed away in London on October 16, 1992, at the age of 69 from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Following his death, he was buried at Putney Vale Cemetery in London, where his grave is marked by a simple granite headstone leaving behind a lasting legacy as one of the Cold War era's most striking and memorable character actors. Watching the Wolverines grow up reminds us how quickly time flies. From young rebels to Hollywood icons, their journey mirrors our own. Their faces may have changed, but the spirit of the 1984 classic remains immortal. Which transformation surprised you the most? Share your favorite memories of the cast in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you still feel the spirit of the Wolverines.